Hi everyone, this is Dan, and this is Daredevil 238, continuing on the Mutant Massacre, right here. So, interesting note about this issue. Depending on who kind of notes it, this issue is sometimes left out of the Mutant Massacre, and it's sometimes put at the very end of the Mutant Massacre. But if you kind of read this story, it actually makes sense for this issue to be after X Factor 11 and Thor 374, but before Uncanny X-Men 213. And that mainly is because Sabretooth is in the sewers, and the sewers are completely devoid of the Morlocks. The Morlocks are already massacred at this point. So continuity-wise, or at least my continuity, that's where I kind of put it. So this is technically not the final issue that'll be upcoming, but it is the precursor to the final issue. So anyhow, you get a great cover right here. I don't know who did this. Ooh, this is Art Adams. Oh, shit. I didn't realize this. It says right there. Art Adams and Klaus Janson inked it. Nice, man. Great freaking cover right here. Just classic Daredevil trying to stop freaking Sabretooth. We open up a phenomenal splash page right here. This is how, yeah, this is classic American comic book splash page. So I did Ann Nocenti's first issue on Daredevil. This is technically her second issue on Daredevil. 237 had a different writer on it. And for those of you who remember that issue, I was not a big fan of it. I kind of found it really annoying and preachy in certain spots. It was a decent story for the most part, and the art by Barry Windsor Smith was really, really good. But Ann Nocenti did not start off on a good foot on Daredevil. However, it seems like she took an issue off and then probably had a talking to by these two gentlemen right here, and she came back on this issue with a vengeance. This is actually very good. Very, very good. I enjoyed it for me personally. It's not perfect. There's a couple spots where I'm going to play the game of good Nocenti and bad Nocenti, but it's mostly good Nocenti in this issue. So anyhow, great splash page. You open up and she's using her caption boxes right here to kind of set the premise for the theme of this story. What Ann Nocenti is doing in here is kind of exploring some metaphysics concepts. Ann Nocenti is kind of known for throwing, high philosophy metaphysics into her story, whether it's Longshot or Daredevil or the numerous other stories that she's written over her career. And this one kind of explores the concept of nature versus nurture, the idea of the wild animal domesticated. In this case, she's using Sabretooth as an example. It works pretty well, even though Sabretooth comes off as a little weird in this issue. It's not a consistent, I would say, characterization of the character from Wheezy's characterization of Sabretooth and Claremont's characterization. Claremont has a very particular way of writing Sabretooth, and Nocenti doesn't really do that, but it still works for the most part. Anyhow, you jump in here, and the sewers are empty, the Morlocks are gone, and you got gangbangers moving in. But this is the Tiger's territory. So he slashes up this guy and tells these punks to beat it, and he ends up keeping the lady here as hostage or as his mate. What's kind of interesting here is in the colors, and you can see it. So this girl is colored as a ginger in the first couple panels, and then for the rest of the book, she's a blonde. So something happened in there in the color separations when they made this book, but yeah, it is what it is. Anyhow, Sabretooth throws his hostage woman on the bed, and that's his mate, and then he goes off to prowl and sleep, right? Interesting caption boxes right here. I think Nocenti is getting into the feel right here. The caption boxes and the sort of noir-like narration is what makes Daredevil unique, in my opinion. And I think Daredevil really works with this style of storytelling, as Frank Miller showed. Anyhow, we go over to Daredevil, and he gets introduced. And he's roaming around, the man without fear over Hell's Kitchen. Notices two dogs fighting in the streets, and he makes kind of a commentary on the nature of animals in a concrete jungle like New York City. On the other hand, it's time to go stop some bad guys. So he jumps this guy, proceeds to belt whip this dude, and usual kind of baton stop, and getting these bad guys who are trying to mug this guy. But this citizen actually rips him a new butthole because his whole life got turned upside down because of the nuke incident, which Daredevil has kind of been paying for ever since then. So it's still fairly fresh, Frank Miller's last magnum opus on Daredevil, or at least the main run of Daredevil. And what is great here, and this is very good Nocenti, is she doesn't use this moment to, even though there is a little bit of like sort of criticism of the superhero and what the superhero is, but she doesn't bend Daredevil to her viewpoint. Daredevil is still Daredevil. He picks up the wallet, sends it to him, and has this moment that, you have a couple good points, but you also don't understand what I'm doing, and this is the job of a true hero right here. So, good Nocenti, which is then followed up by bad Nocenti. So, this scene right here with the kids, which acts as like a parallel story to kind of go along with and add, I guess, more depth to the primary story with Daredevil. I understand what Nocenti was doing here, but it's like really annoying and almost like a waste of art and paper, in my opinion. But it's okay. You got two kids fighting, and this girl's getting freaked out by a horror movie. He throws a cat at her, and they like kids fighting and going into it. And then you get a little bit of Nocenti political bullshit right here. But it's not too bad, and honestly, since this whole side subplot is basically worthless, you can kind of brain dump it on your way out to enjoying the real story. So we get here, there's kids down in the sewers, they're taking over the sewers with the Morlocks out, and the same kid that was previously there is joining this gang, and you get a really hilarious mention of the slime monster mutant ninja alligators. Which is kind of poking fun at the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which is a heavily Daredevil-influenced comic book that came out around this time in the 1986, I should say. And these idiot kids end up awakening Sabretooth, who gets really pissed off, runs down this one kid, and this kid's like, "Well, Mister, you're no baddie, Daredevil runs these streets." Of course, Sabretooth's like, "Who the fuck is Daredevil?" Never mind, I'm going to find him and kill him. So then we continue on with essentially the other half of the story, which is how to hunt a man without fear. So Sabretooth is kind of hunting down Daredevil using his intense smell or his good sense of smell, and Daredevil detects him with his heartbeat, ultra hearing capabilities. And then what ends up happening is essentially sort of a callback to the dogs fighting in the street. You got Daredevil and Sabretooth basically ending up at the same spot as those two dogs as they circle each other and get into a brawl. And Daredevil the whole time, while Sabretooth is essentially trying to massacre him, is trying to keep other people safe. So he ends up getting his ass whipped, being essentially a real hero. Again, good Nocenti, not breaking the character of Daredevil right here, which sounds like a doi, but you got to remember, Nocenti is, for lack of a better words, extremely liberal. So I bet the entire time she was writing this, she wanted to do some stupid shit, but thankfully she didn't, and the end result is a fantastic comic book. So yeah, you get a great fight here. This is kind of a little bit odd. I don't know why, but American comics have always had like weird action. Especially like looking back at the 80s, the action wasn't as good as like later comics. But this still serves the purpose of the story. So he whips the crap out of Sabretooth, and Sabretooth's like, "What the hell?" Dives down in the sewer, and Daredevil's like, "You can't escape me. You're not safe from the darkness." And he chases after him into the sewer. And then you get the kind of random side subplot of the cat chasing the mouse, where the kid's at. Daredevil fights Sabretooth to where the lady is being held hostage, and they go at it while he tries to... So Sabretooth, all he cares about is trying to kill Daredevil, but Daredevil, obviously being a true hero, has to save the girl. So it ends up getting him in trouble right here because he's actually human, whereas Sabretooth is kind of a freaking animal. And that's kind of what Nocenti is doing with this subplot with the kid and the cat and the mouse and the weirdness, and his parents saying like, well, he's lost his nature, or whatever the heck it is. The whole point being is that Daredevil manages to kind of find a way to overcome Sabretooth and his animal instincts. And what happens is he kind of has a failing right here where he can't stop him from basically slashing this girl's throat open. But what he's able to figure out is like the wound is not deep enough to kill her, but it's enough to look really bad. So he kind of uses this as a ploy and says, you killed her, now what are you going to do? And this is where the ploy pays off, because Sabretooth essentially is like this cat with this mouse, where he doesn't even know why he's doing it. He's just doing it because that's in his nature, right? That's kind of like the essence of what Nocenti was trying to do with this issue. So Sabretooth ends up running off, and he ends up heading over towards the X-Men. Daredevil rips off a piece of his uniform and helps save this girl and stop the bleeding. And you get a great dialogue here between Daredevil and the girl, where the girl kind of goes over and explains, like, I used to think, I've heard of you, Daredevil. I used to think you were just a myth, but I also used to pretend that you were up on the rooftops every time I was out at night and I was afraid, and that you would help me, if I ever got in trouble. It feels good to know that you exist. And then she tells the Daredevil, I just wanted you to know that, which is kind of a callback to the other guy that he helped out that kind of ripped him a new butthole, and he says thank you, back to her. And you get that great writing and storytelling, which is, creating, instances before and then calling back into them. And you can see how normally people say that you can only do this in long format, but here you can see how you're capable of doing it even in a short 24-page floppy. So, yeah, oh, man. Yeah, I'm actually I'm reading through her run right now, and it's very much like this. You get a lot of great issues and then a lot of, what the fuck issues within Nocenti. But thankfully for this one and the Mutant Massacre, this is a fantastic issue, and definitely recommend it. So, anyhow, that's the review. Let me know what you think. If you like this review, please hit the thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed. Hit the bell for notifications. If you got any comments on Daredevil number 238, leave it down below, and I will see you next time.